doing today is installing drop knuckles onto the front of my S14. The only reason I'm installing drop knuckles isn't for more angle like everyone else. It's actually to fix my bump steer problem. And I did try to fix this before with bump steer tie rods, but I had issues with them snapping. Like, here's one brand that snapped, and the nut that snapped. And then here's the other one that also snapped. And then I also tried this brand's tie rods, but what happened was it was digging into the surrounding part of the heim, and it just made them blow out. So basically, because I couldn't find a good bump steer tie rod to fix my bump steer issue, I decided to go with the drop knuckle. That's more of like a permanent solution, and it should have less stress on all the components because it's actually not overworking the tie rods by moving the leverage point on it. And then the brand I'm going with for the drop knuckles are PVM. There isn't like a particular reason I chose PVM. It was more so these popped up on Marketplace for like really cheap, so I just like went with them. That's why they're like really dirty. But yeah. So what I'm gonna be doing is actually taking measurements of the stock angle on the leading and trailing wheel on my car with stock knuckles and just rack spacers, in case anyone is curious of like how much angle you get with just that setup, and also the Ackerman difference side to side. And then once these are installed, I'm also going to take another measurement of the angle of the leading and trailing wheel so people can see how much more angle is gained side to side, and also the Ackerman change to see if it like shortens it up a little bit. And Ackerman is basically, the easiest way to explain it is zero Ackerman is your wheels are just perfectly straight, but on a normal car, as you turn, the inside wheel will turn a lot more than the outside wheel doing this. And the reason for that is because they turn at different radiuses. So I personally like Ackerman in my setup because it like helps with self-steer. But the issue is it makes the front end really dig into the ground. And to combat that, I run like really grippy rears on my car, but less grippy fronts, so the front end slides. But if I were to run grippier fronts, because the car basically is in a way towing out at lock, it's digging into the ground and slowing down the car, so I have to let the front end slip a little bit. Most people, what they do for setup is they run a zero Ackerman setup, which is very like American, which just means when you turn, both wheels are like the same, and that's like Wisefab or something like that. And personally, I don't like that. I do like the front end to have like a little bit of slide and self-steer, so hopefully these knuckles still have some Ackerman in it. So what I made to calculate the steering angle on the car is basically a giant protractor, and I just pretty much marked a piece of cardboard and made a giant protractor, and then added a pivot point to the middle of it. And what this is going to do is, as I'm turning the wheel, the top section will move to show what degrees it's at, and the bottom section will just stay stationary. And basically how I got this idea is I saw it like in a Chris Fix video a few years ago, and it's a good idea to calculate steering angle without spending a bunch of money on like turntables. But one thing I thought about is not only can you use it to figure out your steering angle on the leading wheel, you can also check your trailing wheel's angle to see the Ackerman side to side. So what I'm going to be doing right now is turning the wheel all the way to the right to figure out the angle on the leading wheel. And then I'm just going to come back and check and make sure the board didn't slide or anything. And then I'll check all the way to the left, which is a trailing wheel's angle. And then we'll have the measurement for the boat. Ended up taking a break because it was way too hot earlier. It was like 95 degrees. Now it's a little more tolerable at 85 degrees. But yeah, the last thing I think you guys saw is us taking the measurements of the angle on the leading and trailing wheel. The leading wheel had 38 degrees of angle, and then the trailing wheel had 34 degrees of angle, meaning that there was a 5-degree difference from side to side, and that is your Ackerman difference. And yeah, now that we have that, we can start taking this thing apart. So the order I'm gonna be taking everything apart is I'm gonna first take the spacers off, and then I'm gonna pull the caliper off and the rotor off, and then I'm gonna take this dust cap off for the axle bolt or the hub bolt, and then I'm gonna take the hub off itself, take the tie rod off, then the lower control arm, and then the coilover mounting bolts, and then the entire knuckle should just pull out. A locking washer that you do not want to lose that's inside the hub, and the two notches in the locking hub matches up with the knuckle to make sure that it doesn't spin and the hub doesn't come out like that. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is take this cotter pin off that might be kind of hard to see because it's dirty back here. And once we get this cotter pin off, we can take this nut off, and then the lower control arm will be free. Then all we have to do is undo these two bolts for the shock or coilover, and then the knuckle could come out. So everything was going pretty straightforward to take the knuckles off. The only thing I was struggling with for a while was taking the ball joint nut off. And I tried this puller from Harbor Freight. I tried a Harbor Freight pry bar, and nothing was really working. And I did end up blowing the ball joint because of it, but then I decided to take a break and rethink about this, so I actually ended up going and buying this puller, and it seems like the best bet. So yeah, gonna try this. I went deaf for a second. What the
Wow.
Look at this ball joint. So we got everything apart to the point that we could put the new knuckles on. But then of course, the lower control arm ball joint is blown. And instead of putting it all back together, knowing that this is blown and I'm gonna have to take it all back apart to replace it, I'm pretty much just gonna wait until my new ball joint's coming in a few days. And yeah. So now we wait, but you guys don't. So it's been a day and my ball joints just came in from Amazon. I ended up going with Moog just because they are like second best to OEM in my opinion. And if anyone needs the part number, it's K9820. This is the same ball joint that's used between S14 and S15s, but S13s are different, so do not use these on an S13. And yeah, I did get the knuckle off the passenger side on video, but I did also get the driver's side. I didn't want to show both sides unless something like interesting happened, just because I don't think you guys want to see everything twice. But I took the dust shield off the driver's side knuckle, so it's easier to compare between the PBM, and now I'm going to start comparing the differences between the PBM drop knuckle and a stock S14 knuckle. Before I put these onto the car, I wanted to compare like the differences between the stock knuckle and the PBM knuckle. And one thing I already noticed is that there is a 45mm drop between the stock knuckle and the PBM knuckle. But unlike bump steer tie rods, which only drop the tie rod mounting point, which is right here, it also drops the location of the lower control arm, which should help with bump steer and keeping this even so one area doesn't have more load than the other, which is the reason I believe that bump steer tie rods fail, because they only lower the tie rod, which causes more force to go to it. And then the other thing I noticed is that from the ball joint to the tie rod, there is 120mm on the stock knuckle, and then on the PBM knuckle there is about 85mm. And then also, if you were to visually like look at the line of the knuckle, the tie rod pickup point is parallel with the ball joint, with like where the hub is. And then on the stock knuckle, the hub is here, the ball joint is here, and then the pickup point for the tie rod is actually moved more towards the inside the car, which I believe causes the huge Ackerman change from side to side. So now that we got the new ball joint in, we could continue where we got stuck on the other day. But before we go ahead and replace the ball joint, we have to take the C-clip that locks the ball joint in place off, and that's right here in this groove. And then to remove that, you have to use some C-clip pliers that are basically just click in right here into the C-clip and open it up just like that. And then you would just pull it up and out, and then you would have to use a ball joint press, which is right behind me, to press it out and to install the new one. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward and it should only take like a few minutes. Right away we ran into an issue that my press doesn't fit with the ball joint shank and the cup to catch the ball joint. You could see when I put the cup at the bottom and try to fit the press that the shank is a little too long for this setup. So what I'm going to end up doing is using an angle grinder and cutting the shank near the bottom just so it fits in the press area and I could press out the ball joint. So to install the ball joint, I'm basically using the cup that was at the bottom now on the top, and I'm just going to push the ball joint up from the bottom like that with the rod from the bottom like that. So I was being very cautious because I was scared that the press kept moving, and eventually I said screw it and just tightened it all the way, and it did end up working. So if your press starts twisting, just let it be. But we know we got the ball joint fully on because you can see the groove right here on the ball joint is fully exposed and the C-clip can fit into it, just like that. See? Look at that. So now that we got the ball joint on, we could start assembling everything, which should be pretty straightforward since it's like the opposite of taking everything apart. I'm going to start by attaching the ball joint to the bottom of the knuckle. Then I'm going to attach the knuckle to the coilover, then the tie rod, and then after that I'm just going to attach the hub and the brakes. That's the easy part. The part that should take a while though is adjusting everything because of the drop knuckle. Knuckle on ball joint. There we go. We just got the other side finished up, and now we could do the alignment and then check the difference of angle between the PBM knuckles and the stock knuckles. One thing that I already found that's an issue is the car is super towed out with how the tie rods are set up right now, and I'm not sure that I have enough like adjustment to dial out all the tow in the car. So I'll try to get it out as much as possible, but worst case scenario, I do have a solution for that. If you were to look at the car, you can see it's like super towed out. That's with the steering wheel straight. But yeah, I'll try to adjust that out. So what you guys just seen is that we got everything buttoned up, we set the alignment. I ended up having to use the GK Tech tie rods again because they are a little bit longer than OEM. And no stores near me have longer inner tie rods in stock, so I need to order it. So until I get longer inner tie rods, I'm just gonna try the GK Tech ones again and hope for the best. But what you guys just saw is that our steering angle is actually a lot less than it was before. Before we used to have 38 degrees on the leading wheel and 34 degrees on the trailing wheel. Now we have 31 and 30. And the reason for that is because now I'm rubbing in the front and the back of my wheel well. So the next thing I need to do to my car is get longer lower control arms and inner tie rods. Until then, thank you.